Greetings, folks. Welcome back to the Jason Damico Show, and really excited for this episode. Our guest's voice can be heard on countless notable stations and formats, including AMC, the Discovery Channel, Fox Business, HBO, Star 94.1, Go Country 105, Jimmy Kimmel, BBC, ABC, the Travel Channel, just to name a few. From flat-out exuberance to forthright honesty, he's the guy next to you at the game as well as the guy next door. Your buddy and your bro. There when you need him. Please welcome to the show, voice-over artist extraordinaire, Mr. Neil Wilson.
You make me sound so much cooler than my wife does.
Welcome. And thanks for emailing me via Source Connect with one of your marketing bits, because we wouldn't be sitting here today if it wasn't for that. So thanks.
I don't think people realize how much of a hustle it is when you're an entrepreneur. Like, I may be just in the voiceover world, but it's a hustle, man.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's get into your beginning stages. I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you got into this. I read somewhere online that you started through DJing at one point, but even before that, what was it first through music? Was it first through, how did that affinity start for, creating
I think
with the voice?
my mom was super creative, but she would draw, and I always wanted to act. I remember my first acting role was I played a character named Dick Simmering in a play called Death by Chocolate when I was in middle school. He was a gay aerobics instructor. It was always great to have children, in those roles.
Yeah.
With a name like Dick Simmering. So I started acting early on, and that kind of carried me through high school and, just those weird teenage years. And it's weird, like now being a little older, I look back on it, like I always wanted to work with my voice. And the outlet back then was through radio. So I was a DJ, I did overnights, I did creative stuff for radio stations. I kind of like everything that you could do in a radio station I did, all with kind of these stepping stones to get to where I'm at today. There was just a point in time when, I told my wife, I was like, look, this is it. We're like, this is where we're going, and it's either going to work or it's not going to work. So I can't go without knowing that I have to try at least, right. And knock on wood, so far so good. Well, the bills are paid.
It's a commendable career from what I've seen and just, glance through the website and your materials online. Were there any influences that really kind of kicked you into gear with this, or was it more just of an intrinsic motivator of, hey, like I've got a talent with this, let me see how this goes, if I'm gaining traction?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you take the time to study any industry, whatever it is, you start to find out who kind of the icons of the industries are. The Hal Douglases and the Ernie Andersons and the Don LaFontaines and all these guys that sort of, were the pillars of what voiceover has become today. I've never been a character actor, but I always loved the old Looney Tunes commercial, cartoons and all that sort of stuff. And I'm still actually in awe of guys today like Bob Bergen and all the actors, Nancy Cartwright and The Simpsons. I grew up on that. So yeah, it's you start to learn to really love these and appreciate what some of these people do as you step your way through the career. While I don't do animation, I do look up to other guys in the promo world. People that I grew up idolizing and became colleagues and friends over time, like Steve Stone and the late Chris Corley and Chad Erickson, Mark Peoples. Like there's a lot of these guys that just, they kind of do these bread and butter radio station, TV station promos that you hear on different television networks and stuff. And you get to really become, it's like anything. You become fans of these people that ultimately become your friends through the process. So it's a fun ride.
For sure. Now to switch gears for a second, the 49ers, can we get into kind of how that started? Because that's obviously a decorated faction of your life and your career, and it's like it's out there. You're a huge fan,
Oh
and
yeah, it's I mean I'm easy to spot as a 49ers fan. It's not hard to find me.
but you live in Louisiana, which is really interesting. So, are you a California native then, or how did that
No,
happen?
oddly enough, I grew up in the Midwest, and it was the era of Brett Favre, and you
Yeah.
know the black and blue division of the NFC North, and on the deep dark tundra of Lambeau Field, you know, that sort of thing, and um, the frozen tundra. But I was never like, it was always kind of like I don't know what it is, and you know the psychological aspect of it, but I've always kind of wanted to go against what the majority of people are doing. You know, when people are going one way, I'm going the other. And society where I grew up was like, you're going to be a Packers fan, you're going to be a Bears fan. It's what was on TV every weekend. But then, meanwhile, I'm watching guys like Joe Montana and Jerry Rice and you know, and then Steve Young and Ronnie Lott, all these, you know, this fantastic team from the Bay Area, and I just kind of latched onto them because they were winning. I guess you could call me back then you could probably call me a bandwagon fan, but I'm way beyond that now. And it's just kind of grown. You know, the fandom as a Niners fan, and I was able to incorporate it into my branding because, you know, when you see me in person, and you know, I've got the tattoos up my arm, and my whole shoulder is Niners. Wow. And it's like, wow. You know, it's who I am. It's like it's just become a fabric of who I am wow. Outside of the booth.
There's rituals involved, right, on game days, from what I've seen.
Yeah, there's the rituals have shifted over time because okay. I got fat and I don't fit in my uniform anymore. But I used to wear a uniform and watch them in the living room and pace back and forth and sweat a lot. And now I do that, but just not in uniform. And I travel a little bit more too. I like it's turned into me traveling. I'll go to see them like, you know, 4 or 5 times a year.
Oh, that's cool.
As often as the boss will let me out.
Sure. Well, let's talk about let's get into some voiceover work and kind of, I'm curious to hear what, you know, you hear about vocal ranges, and it's funny because a lot of the bits that I've heard with you, and I'm sure I've heard you on AMC and Travel Channel, because the voice really sounds familiar.
Yeah.
So I'd love to kind of hear your take on finding your voice as far as placement and where it resonates. And, you know, sometimes because on this interview, just talking, you have a lower settled range than kind of what I'm hearing live or on, you know, what's being broadcast. So I'd love to kind of hear your take on that, as far as how to find that as a voiceover artist and where you're going to place it.
There's so much of it. You know? There's so much of it that's not about the voice.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the common misconception about people who enter the industry without knowing anything about the industry and not spending the time and money into like coaching, which is what, when somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, I'd really like to be a voice actor. I have a great voice." People tell me I have a great voice. It's like, well, it's so much more than that. It's about the perspective that you bring to the copy. It's about your life experiences. You know, I did a thing for Xfinity earlier this year, and you know, I used my life experience by watching my son enjoy roller coasters to talk about this Xfinity Velocicoaster giveaway thing, right? So it's about bringing those real life experiences into it. I'm, you know, today at 1:00, you know, I haven't really done anything like super over the top, so I'm a little relaxed in my day.
Right.
You know, but that doesn't mean that, you know, after we're done, I won't have something that's like screaming and yelling and, yeah, here we go, we're going on a roller coaster, you know. So, you know, it's like I often will say it's kind of like a contractor. You know, there's different hammers for different uses on the job. You know. And each life experience, everybody sees things differently, everybody perceives things differently, and it's all about, the copy in front of you, how you perceive it, how you receive it, and then how you react to and tell that story.
That's great. That's great. What would you say is the easiest versus the most difficult aspect of the industry, and maybe just some things along the way, maybe something that was really difficult at first and now it's become more easier over time?
I have a voiceover coach who will say that nobody can prepare you for how it feels to win, and nobody can prepare you for how it feels to lose. There at some point any given job will show up and it's like woohoo, but then there's also the days where a job goes away and you lose that you lose that money and that sort of relationship with that business relationship with that client. So those are probably like the two most extremes,
right,
of what it is. But you get out of it what you put into it. A lot of times you wake up the next morning and you don't know where your next paycheck's coming from. So it's all about putting in that hustle and that work, and good things come to those who wait. And I know for me personally, voiceover has taught me patience. That and parenting, they both taught me patience in like extreme ways.
For sure. I'd love to dive into the differences that you perceive between commercial, theatrical, and radio, or do you see them all as similar? It just depends on, again, what the copy is, getting into that headspace of really what needs to be said here, how it needs to be said, or is there a kind of compartmentalization?
No, there's differences in all of it. And if you pay attention to the media and the stories that are being told around you, commercial is going to be very different how they're selling, tires, for instance, versus how they're selling the next summer blockbuster. Radios, in a lot of ways, still has a little bit of that used car salesman thing going for it. It's a look at me medium. So there's more push to the voice on the radio. You got to get above the music. Go country 105. So it's all this like, you get way up there to get into it. Where with a commercial, the way that advertising has, it always ebbs and flows. The prime example of what advertising is doing is national car brands. Think about the stories that Bryan Cranston is telling about Ford right now and how they resonate.
Right.
You smiled because you knew exactly what I was talking about when I said it.
Right.
There's like 5 guys that do trailers that you see in theaters.
Yeah.
And the trailer industry doesn't use a lot of voices anymore. They let the graphics and they piece the story together without voiceover talent. I'd like to see that come back, because there was nothing better than sitting in a theater and Don LaFontaine comes on. And he comes on in a world, so like there's nothing better than, 2 men, a woman, like there was nothing better than that in the theater. And, that has shifted for the better part of the last 10 or 15 years. I'd like to see it shift back, Do
you think it will?
I don't know. There's like back end SAG-AFTRA stuff that kind of made it shift initially.
Right. What are your thoughts on social media with all of this? Like, TikTok, and I mean, just everything is just really, really changed, especially in the last 3 to 5 years.
Hey, look, I am all for any means necessary to get yourself out there. I think agents are finding people in new ways. I think that social media has allowed a lot of good. It's allowed a lot of bad. It's allowed a lot of indifferent. I use it to market. I don't think it's going away.
No.
I think it's here to stay. So finding the best, utilize it for yourself to get, to show your content. There is amazing stuff on TikTok. Like, I couldn't even do half of the stuff that some of these content creators are doing. Like, it's ridiculously good. Same thing for YouTube and all that other stuff. my kid watches other kids play video games. Who thought of that? Like, hey, watch me play Mario. Like, can you imagine that? Like the 8-bit Mario system, and we're like, watch me jump over this mushroom. Watch me jump over this. No, just amazing to utilize to your benefit. So, do you when it comes to social media?
What do you think is really the trick to finding the take, as far as, there's a spontaneity and an ease usually with the first take, second take. How do you keep, for you personally, how do you keep that energy going from take to take? And how do you scrutinize and pick what, is the best for the bit?
The art of voiceover, since it's years ago, we used to go to studios and we would be directed in a booth by an engineer and by a director, and now there's a lot of it that's just done from home.
Right.
It's you have to direct yourself, and that goes back to under the experience. You're not selling necessarily the product; it's the experience of owning it, and or the experience of doing it, or the experience of whatever it is. So you've got to put it through all those filters in finding how you're telling the story and how you want to tell. This is another voiceover coach thing: is that you want to tell them, not sell them. Nobody wants to be sold. Everybody's hypersensitive to being sold. Like, think about it: you're driving in your car and you talk about Target, and next thing you know, you've got ads for Target all over your social media. Like, people don't want to be sold, and so self-direction is a big part of what it is that I do on a daily basis with all the copy that I see on a daily basis. Getting from take to take, I'm not really sure how to explain it. It's a little bit like, I liken it to like a finding a zone, sort of like an athlete. You can tell when they're having a great game and when they're just in the zone and locked in. And sometimes it's easy to go from, one thing to the next and go, oh, I see two different perspectives on this. This could be a deep, dark thing. This could be a happy-go-lucky thing. Like, here we are. And both would work, right? And ultimately, it's not my decision. I can only give them the best, or my interpretation of what it is they sent me. And it's for the ad agency or for the client or for whoever the deciding person is, the creative director, whoever that might be, to make that decision. There are some stuff where it's, that they expect the same thing every time, right? TV affiliate, radio imaging, they kind of know what they want as far as what it is, but there's a lot of opportunity to play in other genres. So that opens up the door to more possibilities to play as an actor. I mean, just act as if.
Yeah, that's huge. When you hit a wall, let's say creatively, or just, it could be anything, right? And the zone isn't happening, or you were in the zone and you kind of lost it. How do you get back to that place? What are some of those motivators, or just some of those tips for you personally that
I leave the booth?
Yeah,
I go experience life. It's easy to be, like, I can touch both sides of my booth, right? So I'm in this, like, and that's why I added this huge window when I built it, is because I want some perspective to the outside world. And getting out of the grind, or these 5, 6, however many walls it is in here, getting out of this space and going and playing golf, or going and hanging with my family, or going to see the 49ers play. All these things kind of refill the well. So for me, it's about breaking away from the day to day, and going in and, soaking in the outside world.
It's fantastic. Well, the studio is self-designed, right? And then I think you had a friend or a couple of folks help you build it. Would love to kind of talk about some of the gear there, and kind of geek out on that for a second.
Are we gear nerds? We can go into that. That's fun.
fellow one here. So
Yeah, so when I designed the studio, I wanted to make sure that I had nothing that was a moving part inside of the booth. And this building is a 12 by 18 building. And when we bought the house, I was like, oh, that would be great to convert to a studio. So we gutted it. It was like a workshop. It had more power than the power company back here. The guy was running like drill presses and like welding machines and all that sort of stuff back here. And so we gutted everything. We pulled it all out of here and took it right down to the bare studs. And then, so my booth is double walled, insulated with a 1-inch gap all the way around. There's like poles in the wall to run wires to the outside. So like my computer is outside the studio. My audio interface is outside the studio. There's outside the booth. Like there's a whole like producer station outside of there that I never sit at because I'm always in here. So everything that makes noise is outside, right? Inside the booth, I've got a 416 microphone, which you can probably see right there.
Yeah.
U87 just sitting on the counter. It's just sitting. It's so random. I've got an Avid dock that I just put in here, which is kind of cool. Just kind of cool, nerdy thing because I'll mess around in Pro Tools. I've got a desk, tall. That's not really the fun stuff. Outside of the booth, I've got a Mac Pro that runs all the software and all that junk, and then an Avalon Apollo. I love the Apollo because it allowed me to get rid of like just a whole bunch of gear. Like I had like all this rack mount of just stuff, and then a power conditioner. So it's really very simple. You know, the biggest thing that I have are speakers at this point. I've got a Q speaker underneath. I put headphones on anyway because it'll loop back. But and then I've just got the JBLs in here, which I got on a deal at Sweetwater. My guy emails like, "Hey, I've got these special JBL speakers, so they're only $399 or whatever it is. This is only for my select few customers." So I got that, and then I've got a. I don't think I've touched the buttons on that thing in forever. An Arturia keyboard that I was doing some sound design stuff with, just messing around in the off hours. But like when I wired my booth, when I wired the whole studio, I wanted it all to kind of seamlessly flow together. So like the printer's on the clear back of the room, but it's wired all the way through. The TV on that side of the studio, which I never turn on. All this stuff I turn on. I was like, I want to route it all through my Apollo, everything through my system, so I can record television shows or commercials of mine that show up on TV. I can record all the audio for anything I narrate or whatever. So I put it all, so it all feeds back in, and it all comes right out to this little. I kind of nerded out over it. I put like Cat 6 or Cat 7, Cat 8. Some nasty, like just crazy. Like the guy's like, you're going to need to upgrade this at some point. So here, I'm just going to put it on the wall. And then the door is like, it's a double door. And I tried to make it as like a real studio as possible. Did I just lose your video? That was weird. I tried to make it as real studio as possible for what I had. And that part of that was because I was doing it myself. So outside of paying my buddy who's a contractor to like, make the right cuts and everything, we kind of did it together. And that's kind of I'm the exception to the rule. Most people are working in like a little box. We call them stand-up coffins, a studio bricks or a
closet,
or the closet. Yeah, look, don't underestimate the sound quality of a good closet. If you got like when I travel,
when the clothes are hanging right there, man,
dude, you can walk into a room and you can feel when it's full and quiet and dead. Like you're never gonna sound. I can't keep thunder out of this room. If a jet flies, there's on the back side of my studio, there's a private road. So there's about from the back side of my studio to the fence on our property line. It's maybe 15 feet at the most, but then right on the other side of that is this private road. So you'll hear like the UPS truck or the Amazon truck or FedEx or whatever come up and down the street. The rumble of a lawnmower. I can't keep that out. They make plugins for that, but I can't keep everything out of here. But
I mean, you could throw. I'm assuming you use some sort of gate. Right, to a certain
Yeah,
degree.
so I've got the Appivision channel strip on there, but I try not to gate as like a lot of that can be fixed in post.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and by time, from where I am to where it ends up, although I'm typically the final piece of the puzzle, it it goes through layers of processing before it ever gets to air, before it ever gets into a conference room or whatever it is. There's just layers of so you're not going to hear
how much are you doing over there as far as processing? Is it really just, are you giving it a little bit of love, or do they want a really dry file?
So on stuff that I audition for, I process it as if it was going to air.
Yeah.
The radio stuff is like a super crunchy, filtery, like it's got some beef to it, because a lot of radio producers they're not guys who, they may work in radio, but they don't understand audio processing, right?
Yeah.
But then I'll get engineers on the phone, on the horn, who will go, "Hey, there's a little bit of gate on that. I can hear it. Can you turn that off?" So there are actually engineers who will hear it and say, "Oh yeah, no problem. Hey, I hear a little bit of like on my microphone channel, I've got an LA2A, just to give it just a touch of fatness and a touch of beef."
Sure.
But there's not a lot that I do to it if I'm sending it to somebody who knows how to work. It all depends on who the end user is.
Right.
Like even TV stations, like they don't work and they don't know how to process audio. Like, so I do a little bit to it. I'll do more depending on the final usage. Anything I can do to stand out and get heard and be seen is the better I sound, the better chance I have to book the job.
Sure. Absolutely. Best and worst voiceover experiences for you, like super high elated job, and then one, you don't have to use any names for the bad one if there is a bad one, but just something that was just laughably horrific if there was one.
Oh gosh, I gotta think about that. I'll never forget the first time that I worked at DG Studios in LA. And I worked right outside the room that Don LaFontaine used to work in.
Wow.
In like this little nook in there, they have, and there's a light shining down on it. There's a big picture over the top. They always used to make popcorn for Don, and he had his own bowl it's Don's popcorn bowl. So I'll never forget the first time I walked into DG Studios, knowing that was a studio that Don used to pull into daily, maybe 2 or 3 times a day, and there was his popcorn bowl. Because he died like right as I was starting to get going in voiceover. The worst part, I don't know about the worst part, man. There are always clients who like to push and try and get more out of you, but that's just the nature of the business. Yeah. I mean, I try to work as hard as I can to give them everything they want. So, while it may be frustrating, or I walk out of the session going, "Oh, this guy, hey, I did 16 takes and he ended up using the first one, the fucker," but that's just kind of what it is, right?
I love it. It's so true. It's so true. Let me ask you this. What's your rate? What's your personal ratio when it comes to stuff like that? Is it like 1 in every 6 Usually my dad has a rule where it's usually 20% of anything that comes in is just going to be a pain in the ass. Whatever industry it is, whatever, it's like that 1 in 6 rule. There's always that frequency, Oh,
I hate to get into the comments about I will say that sometimes the people with the smaller budgets can be more difficult, but it's very rare that anybody's super, like, because I'm just happy to do what I do, right? Like, yeah. It could be a lot worse. I could be shoveling horse manure all day, right? So it's a lot of times the people who like have champagne wishes and caviar dreams, but they have like leftover snail budget. Like they, there's no money, but they want the world. there are times when I have to turn people away. Like, hey, I'm not that $50 guy. Like
Yeah.
this is how I feed my family. This is
Yeah.
how I put a roof over my head. I appreciate that. I appreciate your side of the business. I would appreciate if you appreciate the art on my side. But like I say, I'm very lucky. Like, I got a good gig. I can't complain. Could be worse.
Well, let's talk about family real quick and juggling those priorities with, luck. I mean, you're home a lot, which I guess that could be
Well, it's good and bad.
Good and bad,
There's a balance when you get to doing some of the stuff that I've done, and that's like this golden handcuff syndrome, right? Where you're kind of at the beck and call when people need you.
Yeah.
Luckily for me, I don't get a lot of stuff after hours. It happens. Last week I had somebody who needed like a 22-page thing done in like a Wednesday at 7:00. So I'm back here going 22 pages. But like, I mean, my wife gets it. Like, it kind of is what it is. Like, it's what I do. Like, that's why I have a studio at the house. The most difficult part for me with the pandemic was not necessarily my being used to working from home, but it was everybody else. The disruption from an ad standpoint, the disruption for, the buyers and ad agencies and creatives and all these people who were trying to figure out how to work this hybrid thing, right? So getting people comfortable with that and then being this sort of calm resource for them was kind of rewarding in a way. I think my wife, she won't admit it, she likes working from home, but I think that she needs to go back to the office. Like, there are just some people who are not, they're not work from home people. But then, there are days where I like the freedom of it. Like, I can wake up at early enough in the morning, go play a round of golf, and then spend the afternoon in the studio. Or I can leave early on a Friday and catch a plane to go see a 49ers game over the weekend, or work West Coast hours if I'm on the West Coast for any reason, like
right.
There's a lot of freedom that comes with it, as well as the sort of, I need you right now, I need this, and when they need it, and oftentimes voiceover is the last piece that goes in. So when they're ready to put a voice in, they're going to put a voice in, whether it's mine or somebody else's.
Right.
So, I always try to come back to the sports analogies, and sometimes your best ability is your availability. And so I try to make myself as available as possible with the understanding that, like, hey, yeah, I do have a family. But they're also the reason I do this. So
that's fantastic. I haven't heard that one before. Your best abilities sometimes is your availability. I mean, you hear often in the entertainment industry, 90% of it is just showing up, or something to that extent. And it's basically the same thing. But I've never heard it like that before. I really like that a lot. This is kind of a ridiculous question, but what are you thinking about when you're behind the mic?
I'm trying to do my best to be in the moment, to be telling the story, to really immerse myself in the words that I'm saying. There's a level of when we speak that we're not necessarily watching ourselves say every word before we say it, right? So I try to immerse myself into what it is, the story that I'm telling. Like, I spend all this time analyzing and going, okay, what's the writer trying to convey in this? What's the buzz? What are they trying? What are they trying to accomplish with this script? And once all that's done, I just try to be the guy.
Right.
Like, right. I'm just a guy telling you about this cool thing, or this great thing that we're doing on this radio station, or this, that here, it's the news. Here you go. Here's breaking news. It's happening right now. Like, which is a little more dire than that typically when it's breaking news. But like, I just try to immerse myself in the topic. be the guy.
Yeah. And the factor of, getting out of your own head. Any thoughts
That takes
on
years. That takes years of work, man. It's everybody. I'm a voiceover guy. Listen to me. Oh, listen to my voice. Oh, this is a good voiceover guy. Here's some words. I'm gonna tell you some words. But like, that's not. Please pass the ketchup. I need you to pass the ketchup. I also need you to pass a hamburger and some fries. Thank you. Coming soon to a car near you at the drive-through. I'll be right there. Like, that's not how we talk in real life. Like, that's not like people would look at you like you're fucking stupid if you talk to them like that, right? So, like that's where you're making your money. Like, do your thing. But like, if you look at what advertising is, it's like the conversation you and I are having right here. So, that's why I go back to this. Like, this be the guy. Like, nobody wants to be. Everybody wants to hang out with somebody they want to hang out with, right? So, it's just be the guy. Just be the guy.
Yeah.
Be real. Be real. That's the most important thing,
Of course. Yeah. So you did some work for AMC. That was Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul, one of those?
I wish. No, it wasn't Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul.
Okay.
How was it that I had on AMC?
I saw on your website you had some sort of commercial bit.
Oh yeah. I did do a promo for
promo. Yeah.
I lose track. Yeah.
Well, I thought
done your homework.
Cool. I thought that was pretty cool, so I wrote it down. Yeah, I mean, we're kind of getting to the tail end of this. I've got one other main point, which is marketing and entrepreneurship. We've touched on that a little bit already.
I always say there's a fine line between being relevant, being friendly, and being annoying.
Yeah.
It's there is I try to stay top of mind without being annoying. Everybody has a different level of annoyance, but I try to send a nice little email around Thanksgiving. I try to send a nice little email around Christmas, maybe around 4th of July. Check-ins quarterly, maybe. I'm always looking for new people to connect with. People that need voiceover. I think that the more people that hear me, that can hire, that know that I'm a sensible dude and not like terrible to work with. Some people like the people they like because there's a level of comfortability. Is that a word? There's a level of comfort with who they have worked with in the past. Maybe it's a family friend, whatever it is. So when it comes to marketing, I think that there's just you've got to find what that line is. What are you comfortable with throwing out there, but also respecting the time, energy, and effort, because everybody's bombarded with everything. Like, you buy something from a store and they want your email address, and next thing you know, you're getting 2 emails a day and 3, 4, 5 emails a week, and it's like our Cyber Monday sale and our Black Friday sale, and it's Black Friday in August, and it's Black Friday in April, and here's our Easter sale. Like I don't want to be that guy, right? Because I don't want that level of marketing coming back at me, right? But also like I'm trying to stay relevant, so I'm trying to find the next gig and keep myself working and keep myself in this booth longer, so I can't play golf or go see Niners games because I want to just be chained here and make money. And I'm being facetious when I say that. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I'm a big golfer myself, and
what's your handicap? Because mine is about 13 balls a game.
Well, hey, sometimes you have those days.
Yeah. It's that's the thing about golf is it literally gives me the ability to just do nothing with my brain except focus on how bad I'm going to hit the next shot. Which side of the fairway do I not want to be on?
Right. No, it's
one of the coolest things about golfing down here, to dovetail a little bit, is like there's alligators on the course. Like, I don't know that I've seen a huge one on the course, but one day we were coming around the corner on the next hole, and this Canadian goose is it was just like doing that honking thing that they do, and you look over and there's a gator sitting on the edge of edge of the pond. So like that goose was warning all the other geese that there's a gator on the edge of the pond. It's super cool.
Yeah.
Especially being a Midwest kid, like gators are just cool.
Right. Well, I've seen a few, I think, in Florida one time.
Golfing? Or just out in
golfing. We're in North Carolina, so we don't really have those up here. But
I lived in Carolina. I love Carolina. That's where my mom's from. She grew up just north of Greensboro.
Oh yeah, I'm Chapel Hill, so that's fairly close.
Yeah.
About 45, 50 minutes.
Yeah, she was. We used to live I lived in Kernersville, and then I also lived in Greensboro back when I was doing creative and radio. And I love Carolina. It's so nice.
Yeah,
you're a few hours from the mountains.
I saw the 336 area code on your, I think it was your phone or one of the phone numbers. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, I just have never changed my phone number because who needs to these days, right?
Right.
Like you can choose your area code. It's like picking where you live. Like, where would you like to live? Here's an area code for that area. You can live vicariously through your area code.
Yeah, and you could be like New York, where everything changed from 212 to I don't know what it is now, but
976, I think, is one of them.
They've had to change multiple. I think it's a 5, 6, what I don't know, but
whatever it is, yeah.
Well, that kind of brings us to the tail end of this. I have a fun thing I like to do at the end, which is called the shootout, where I'll say a word that's related to the guest, and then you just fire a word back, and we'll see what comes out of it. There's no right or wrong answer, so
okay.
And now I have to add
this podcast for adults, by the way, like in case something vulgar comes back. Okay.
Yeah. Studio.
Love it.
Microphone.
Tool.
Reverb.
Love reverb. Actually bad. It's a joke. Add more reverb. Give me more. It's like more cowbell.
Right. Compression.
Good as long as it's not overused.
Right. EQ.
Be careful.
Yeah. 49ers.
Is my heart.
Yeah. Louisiana.
Small town.
Voiceover.
A job.
And these are the one of them that I added, golf.
Terrible.
And then this is one that I ask everybody, pizza.
Oh boy, the first word that pops in my brain is pineapple.
He's one of those guys.
Look, listen. 9 times out of 10, I'm drunk when I'm eating pizza. So you could, you could put rats on it, and I would still eat it. Like it.
Oh.
However, though, New York pizza is my jam. There's just something about New York pizza that, like, I try to explain to people who've never been to New York. If you haven't had New York pizza, I can't explain to you how terrible Domino's and Papa John's is.
They say it has to do with the water.
That's what I've heard.
Because long story short, both of my parents are from New York. My mom's side is from upstate, which is a large chunk of the state, but they were from like an hour and a half north of New York City, which is where the Catskills are, which is where the aqueduct runs through their hometown and goes to Manhattan or New York City, whatever part of New York City that it feeds. So, or supplies. So that water is essentially the water that's used to make the pizzas in Manhattan or
okay.
And that water from the Appalachian, however you pronounce it, mountain range up there, which actually runs all the way down to the Carolinas as well. But
yeah,
they're
catching the good stuff before it gets south.
Right. Maybe it's Canadian water then, and it's just coming down from,
I don't know. I always wonder about that, but
the Hudson River, because the Hudson River, I think, runs all the way from Canada to New York, to the Bay?
I don't know. Geography, no good.
No good.
As long as we're doing quick the thoughts here, yeah.
Yeah.
I've learned how much I hate Common Core math with a child in elementary school.
Right. Right. I asked this to everybody at the end, which is if you could go back to your 15-year-old self, knowing what you know now, as advice, what would you tell him?
I would tell him to spend more time with his mom.
Mm.
And my mom died young, and every day I wish I would have spent more time with her.
That's good.
It's heavy. It's a heavy way to end this fun conversation, but yeah.
No, but it's that I asked that question to everybody because
I probably would also tell him do more theater.
Do more theater?
Do more theater in school, like, because I think I always wanted to do voiceover, and I probably should have done more theater in school, be it community theater, be it the plays and whatever it was in school. Do more of it.
Yeah.
Because I probably would have enjoyed it. The 40-year-old me says 15-year-old me would have enjoyed it quite a bit more than I did if I did more of it. More.
Awesome.
More.
Well,
how many different ways can you say more? Can you give us that word like just a little more upbeat? Yeah, more. A little flatter, more.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you tell it to us like it's a horror story? More. We're going to use take one.
Right. That's so good.
Yeah, that's the nature of it.
Well, this has been a lot of fun. Thanks so much for taking the time to
dude,
be on.
Thanks for having me.
And any other final words from your end?
Tip your Uber driver.
That's good. That's good. Description box below, we'll have that information there. I'm assuming, neilwilson.com is the first place to stop.
Yep. I'm not hard to find.
Any other Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, anything like that?
Yeah, Instagram is at Neil Wilson Voice. Twitter is basically just a place for me to vent about the 49ers and people who do me wrong, like various commercial airlines and airports and
right
stuff. But that's at Neil Wilson Voice. Facebook, I kind of just I'm about 3/4 of the way done with Facebook. It's just turned into a shit show. So
yeah.
But yeah, at Neil Wilson Voice on Instagram, at Neil Wilson Voice on Twitter, and I welcome the followers and the enjoy. I actually barbecue a lot too, so if you like good barbecue, which is probably be a whole nother hour, like we could go another hour on barbecue, but I post a lot of that on Instagram. Stuff that I'm cooking.
Check that out.
Yeah. I don't do like crappy Carolina barbecue. I do like Texas brisket and like.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and I'm not a huge vinegar. I don't dislike it. It's just not my favorite.
Well, so actually I have a question for you that hopefully I can get an answer to. Kind of when I was in Texas, it was a little bit before the pandemic. There were a lot of barbecue places that we tried, and it was good, but it just didn't have like I don't know. I get maybe where I'm coming from when I say Carolina barbecue, because it's kind of like drippy and wet, and it's got
well. So Carolina's a lot of pork, and it's hard to mess up pork.
Okay.
When it comes to barbecue, if you don't do beef right, like a brisket, you can dry out a brisket in a hurry.
Yeah.
You can dry out the beef is just a little more finicky, right? So if you were going somewhere and having brisket and it's been sitting in the heater all day, it's probably dry by the time you get to it. Like we've all had that barbecue that's like, ooh, this is really, I need some sauce with this just to moisten it up. But yeah, the big difference is beef and pork.
Okay.
The immediate thing I think about.
Well, because when I had ribs in Texas, they were good. It was just different.
What kind of ribs? Beef ribs or pork ribs?
They were pork.
Yeah, you're not going to get good pork in Texas. That's more of a Memphis. Really, it's more of an Iowa thing. There's nothing as good as an Iowa pork chop.
Pork chop.
But when it comes to barbecue and a whole hog, now that would be a Carolina thing for me. I probably would just skip the sauce and eat the hog.
Yeah,
it like befuddled. You're like, I can see your wheels turning. You're like, eat the whole hog. What the hell are you talking about? And nuts and all, like what the hell?
Snout and all.
Yeah. They have this stuff in Louisiana called hogshead cheese. Do they have that in?
I haven't heard of it.
So my buddy goes, yeah, my son loves hogshead cheese. And I'm like, that's just a name, right? It's not really like a hog's head. And he's like, oh, no, it's definitely a hog's head. They like take the meat from the hog's head, like, and it becomes a cheese. And I'm like, nope, no to the no. Nope. Yeah. Now alligator tastes like chicken, and I'm like, well, hell, if you're gonna eat alligator and it tastes like chicken, just eat a chicken.
Was that like snake too, from what I've heard?
I can say that I've never been anywhere where there's been snake on the menu.
Yeah.
But oysters, shrimp, gator. Now I was at the grocery store and there was a gator probably maybe 2.5-3 foot long, and they had skinned it and they laid it in there, and you could buy it for like $3.99 a pound or something. It was like right at the tail end of gator. Gator's pretty easy to get. They're overpopulated now, so
yeah.
Gator's pretty easy to get. But again, it tastes like chicken. Like, don't feed me. Feed me chicken.
Yeah, if it's gonna be chicken,
alligator.
Let's do chicken.
I'm a Midwest boy. Like, give me pork and potatoes and beef and corn, and like I'm good. You know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. We could go a whole nother hour talking about food. I love food. So yeah. Anyway, if you want to follow me and learn barbecue secrets and what I'm cooking this week, or maybe what I'm drinking, or whatever, is at Neil Wilson Voice on Insta. Yeah. We'll go fire up the big green egg and get going.
Well, this has been great, man. Thanks again. And for those listening and not able to look at the description box, again, neilwilson.com for all of the information and links. And you guys have been watching, listening to the Jason Damico show, and we will see you on the next episode. Peace.